the lobbyists, and we're here to talk with our friends at the Friends of Mount Sunapee, because we recently began working together after the draft proposal from Commissioner Rose at the New Hampshire Department of Resources and Economic Development allowed the expansion of ski infrastructure at the Mount Sunapee State Park. The two groups, Friends of Mount Sunapee and New Hampshire Sierra Club, have been having worked together during the last iteration of a similar proposal 10 years ago, only recently joined forces to raise more opposition comments for the comment period ending tomorrow, June 5th, at 4. As of June 4th, the groups have collected 1,945 comments.
Yay!
Yay!
Then additionally, those are the ones that we can count. There are still others that we've encouraged people to send their comments directly to the commissioner. And the draft Mount Sunapee master plan would allow for a 150-acre West Bowl expansion of the ski area and allow the operator to retain ownership of the committed land until 2028, with an additional 10 years added to the current lease term. Provisions of the plan would enable real estate development on land adjacent, and we've got a map. Oh, here it is. A map here. Land adjacent to the park by allowing the resort operator to use the ski area acreage to, quote, meet local density requirements and other permitting and/or mitigating requirements. And the draft plan conditionally approves land donations to the state, the construction of a mountain coaster near the center of the park, fragmentation of land designated exemplary forest, also on the map, and impacting the only 4-season public hiking and snowshoe trail on the west side of the state park. The Sierra Club and the Friends of Mount Sunapee oppose this plan. We'll have a speaker from the Friends of Mount Sunapee. And I found my bios. I printed them right where I should have. So I'll introduce each of our speakers. But I wanted to give you some flavor of comments that folks have given. One person wrote, she's from Lemster, Cynthia Martin. Is she here?
No.
She wrote in her added comments, I oppose the expansion. I've hiked here for almost 30 years and I've worked in the public sector for almost that long as well. I ask you to protect the park on behalf of not only those of us here now, but for future generations. When we as a people have no ability to connect with the pristine natural world, we lose a part of our humanity. I will introduce our first speaker, Gary Stansfield. Gary is a resident of Goshen, and he is a member of the board of directors of the Friends of Mount Sunapee. He is a lifelong naturalist and has found employment in the public school science as a public school science teacher, and was a member of the land management department at the Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forests. Thank you.
Thank you. Friends of Mount Sunapee strongly opposes the plan to expand the ski area of Mount Sunapee State Park. The proposed plan runs counter to a 100-year effort to create a large connected mosaic of conservation lands on and around Mount Sunapee. The plan violates the public trust by using our land to facilitate private real estate development. The plan would line the pockets of a private corporation, an Orlando, Florida-based real estate investment trust, while sacrificing one of the jewels of our state park system. Mount Sunapee is a state park. It is neither a private resort nor an amusement park. Although the leaseholders remain silent on their plans to build condominiums on the land they own abutting the park in Goshen, language in the draft approval clearly indicates their intention to unleash sprawl on the small local communities ill-equipped to deal with it. The proposal is touted as an economic boost to our region, yet, after 17 years of private operation of the ski lease, our region's economy is still described as stagnant. And there are empty storefronts in the surrounding communities. Young people continue to leave our region in droves because the part-time, seasonal service industry jobs created by resort development do not pay a living wage. Wise economic development emphasizes sustainable employment, not low-wage, unbenefited service jobs. This plan would bind our region to an industry that is in decline nationwide due to changing demographics and increasingly erratic winter weather patterns. Industry analysts and climate scientists state that due to a changing climate, Mount Sunapee may not even be a viable ski area in the not-too-distant future. It is irresponsible to approve a plan of this scope and scale without having thorough, up-to-date impact studies completed before the plan is approved. The current master development plan uses outdated and superficial studies to support the proposal. This is simply not acceptable. The plan would develop ski infrastructure on the now pristine western slope of the mountain, shattering the peace of the popular summit hiking trail and eliminating its use by winter hikers. In addition, a state-documented exemplary forest community that lies directly in the path of the development would have swaths cut through and adjacent to it. This rare forest that is home to trees that are over 200 years old is protected under state law. DRED would be violating the law by approving this development. The proposal upsets the balance of uses that currently exist in our state park and monopolizes the park for alpine skiing and other fee-based recreation. This directly contradicts the results of DRED's own user study, which revealed that 71% of New Hampshire State Park users feel our park should focus on providing traditional, low-cost recreational opportunities such as hiking and picnicking. Friends of Mount Sunapee is a broad coalition of skiers and school teachers, farmers and foresters, hikers and hunters, business owners and backpackers, artists and attorneys, nurses and nature photographers. We outnumbered the proponents by 3-1 at the recent public hearing, and our numbers are growing every day. We will not be silent. We will not go away. We will not allow one of the crown jewels of our state park system to be degraded by resort development to facilitate financial gain for a select few. Now is the time for Commissioner Rose, the Executive Council, and Governor Hassan to listen to the people of New Hampshire and deny this ill-conceived plan. Thank
you. Gary's going to be hard to follow up on. Yes, the reason I'm exposed to the expansion is because I saw and lived through the actual detrimental changes to the ski town character and the ski experience itself once the big corporations took over. I've lived and worked in Colorado, including Vail and Winter Park, in California, Mammoth and Heavenly Valley, in Crystal Mountain, Washington, and Park City, Utah. I've also worked at Burke Mountain Academy, Waterville Valley Resort, and most recently required that that proposed plan would encompass all proposed development activity associated with the management of the ski area and any adjacent land that Okemo intends to develop. We hope that our current Commissioner Rose will also make sure that this is done. Publicly traded Wall Street corporations like CNL, who now owns the Sunapee lease, only care about growth and revenues, not about birds or forests or the quality of life of the resort workers. Corporations ignore things like climate change, impacts on the viability of skiing, or lower or the lower skier numbers. They care only about the short-term gains. We can look westward to see what happened in the town of Ludlow, Vermont, at the base of Okemo, which has changed tremendously when the Okemo Corporation came to town and started building lifts and on-hill condo units. The property taxes more than doubled when Ludlow became a donor town due to increase in property values. You would think that would be good, but the taxes went way up. 85% of the homes were owned by out-of-staters because the locals could not afford to buy them. This is similar to Beaver Creek in Colorado, Park City, Colorado, Park City, Utah. In the winter, it can take 45 minutes to drive to town. Hassan has the power to veto this, as John Lynch did in 2002. We need to please keep up the good fight. Your kids and grandkids will thank you.
I'm just going to speak to a couple of points about the economics and some of the things that are going on. The proposal for the West Pole expansion has been described by its advocates as a boon to growth in this region, and I don't share that opinion. I don't believe the state or the local advocates have thoroughly studied the long-term impact of the ever-increasing growth on Mount Sunapee. While it may enhance the vacation experience for skiers, for some skiers, there's no significant public benefit to this development. We've been told it will bring much needed jobs to the mountain. Unfortunately, these will be minimum wage part-time jobs at the resort and temporary jobs during construction. We've heard that there will be an increase in taxes and fees from the resort paid by skiers and other visitors. I feel it's inappropriate to suggest that these are special taxpayers, as though everyone who contributes to the taxes in the region isn't contributing a share. The truth is that people who come here pay meals and room tax, whether they come to pay meals and room taxes at hotels and businesses that are there or others that are off-site. On the other hand, this proposal indicates subsidies to the enterprise, which would offset the income to the state, creating a higher net income for the offset businesses than from the resort facilities. Resorts typically operate like cruise ships, and once aboard, the cruise supplies all their amenities so that the passengers have no need to spend money ashore, which would badly impact local retailers in the future. In the 17 years the resort has run the mountain, there has been no significant economic growth to the region, and their profits are reinvested in out-of-state projects. The resort owners have proposed 175 to 250 condominium units and request population density impact studies to examine that feasibility. Yet none of this is included in this proposal. Before we can commit to anything, New Hampshire taxpayers need to understand and approve of the real long-term scale and scope of their use of this mountain. Or must we wait until after the papers are signed before they unveil their intentions? Considering that Sunapee Resort has sued the state 5 times since they signed the current agreement and sued the town of Newbury once, this isn't an insignificant point. They wanted access to land that was outside their contract, and rather than negotiate that before signing, they decided to litigate as soon as the ink was dry. It cost New Hampshire taxpayers over 2,000 hours of legal fees and court costs. This does not come cheap and greatly offset the amount of taxes DRED claims that we receive from the endeavor. What will happen if the new agreement isn't to their satisfaction either? DRED has said that the tiny town of Goshen will have to fend for itself if the resort decides it wants to change the terms of their lease. They call it local control. I would suggest it's more like abdicating their responsibility. These are just the highlights of some of the issues that are still unresolved and should be answered before any agreement is drafted. We all want what's best for skiers, hikers, businesses, local residents, and the state as a whole. The resort will advocate for itself in the strongest language possible, and it is up to us as citizens to make sure that we do the same on behalf of New Hampshire. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone who has taken time out of their busy day to hear what we have to say. Some of those presidents were passed, but I'll take the honor for the president. As many of you may or may not know, my 7 retail businesses are east, west, north, and south of the Mount Sunapee State Park. What dismays me to think that the future of our Mount Sunapee State Park is ultimately controlled by a $2.5 billion equity firm. Doing what businesses do, especially one that has stockholders, they will make decisions based on stockholder profits versus the concerns of the New Hampshire residents. C&L Lifestyle Corporation, the current leaseholder, has already publicly stated that they may sell their REIT that holds the Sunapee lease, and it also holds other northern New England, Loon Mountain, the one in Maine, Sunday River. This REIT will expire in 2015. Why are they selling it? To increase stockholders' profits and also to increase the liquidity for the company, since their earnings have dropped 24% over the past couple of years. As the quote goes, those that don't know history are destined to repeat it. In 1998, when the mountain was initially privatized, the operators, who were then the current owners, moved the local chamber, the regional economic groups, Newport economic groups that I was involved in. The towns of Newport, Claremont, and New London, specifically, the state, town officials, and many citizens desperate for economic development in Sullivan County hopped onto the bandwagon. They touted the privatization of the state park as the economic engine of the region. Some, I think in the New Hampshire Business Review, said the first coming. Let's forward 17 years. And the promise of that private resort being an economic engine for the surrounding communities has not come to fruition. I have stores in Newport, Claremont, New London, Woodsville, Lebanon, Goffstown, and Peterborough. But what really shocks me is you can say, okay, we're not going to impact businesses 5 to 10, 15 miles away. Just Sunapee, Newberry. Let's look at the main corridor. This is Route 103, in and out of the mountain. There are a few businesses, actually, that have done well right at the base of the circle, excuse me. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 are vacant and for sale. This is after that economic engine. I think it's fair to say the economic engine benefit has not been a reality, and I hold no hope for the second coming. Is it prudent to negotiate this deal without knowing who the next owner will be? Will they have the wherewithal to follow this deal, or will they want to renegotiate or litigate? Why aren't we waiting till we know who we're dealing with? Of course, as a business and a taxpayer in one of the highest tax communities, Newport, I have a problem giving away the people's land to a $2.5 billion equity company for their stockholder profits. While communities like Claremont and Newport have some of the highest property taxes in the state and the lowest median incomes, we can't ski here anymore. If you're making $45,000 a family of 4, you can't afford a $100 lift ticket. How does the state explain to New Hampshire residents why priority is given to awarding the private company a below market rate deal? What did they rate? Hubert's didn't get a below market rate deal. Basically corporate welfare, while at the same time for more and more, asking more and more from the taxpayers while cutting needed services from the community. State, I read today, that you may be closing the Claremont office of the Department of Health and Services. Really? The draft proposal extends exclusivity, for slopeside development for the for-profit operator. Keeps the same base rent with a 3% of the ticket sales without even a cost of living for 50 years. What business has the same base rent, same lease, no cost of living for 50 years? This base rent is at $150,000. All the buildings, the ski trails, the mountains, the acreage, base rent of $150,000. I have 4 stores. The largest one has 10,000 square feet. Our rents are at or exceeds, we don't pay them to the state, we pay them to private people, $150,000. The rent paid by the resort to the state is not market value, nor equitable. And we don't even know because we never, ever, the state never did an economic study. All studies have only been done by the resort. So versus the profits generated, New Hampshire residents should not be subsidizing this expansion. This is a big business corporate handout to a litigious corporate partner. As the former Governor Lynch wrote to me, I oppose to the expanding the lease because I have not seen compelling proof of a strong public benefit. I ask, what has changed? Thank you.
One reason that I feel unique is that my family's land abuts the state park, and it has for 3 generations. In 1964, the state of New Hampshire took 24 acres from my great-grandfather, James McKinley Wright. This land was taken by eminent domain in order to create an entranceway to the park, as well as create an access road that goes from the 3rd parking lot to the state-run campground and the Sunbowl chairlift. 24 acres is a lot of land, and I know my great-grandfather would not approve what it's being used for today. I also feel unique in that I am a youth and I still reside in the area I grew up in. Most of my friends have moved away. They've moved to different states with more to offer. More jobs, higher salaries, and stronger economies. Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love New Hampshire. I always have loved living in the state, and growing up in the area, I prided myself on being a local. I've been to a lot of places, and there's nowhere like where I'm from. It's beautiful, and it's filled with incredible people. Mount Sunapee boasts the Mount Sunapee difference, and it's definitely true, but it comes from the people of the area that are standing before you today. Unfortunately, these wonderful people, the locals, are not offered any reasonable discounts on tickets or passes. With that said, and the cost of tickets these days, it is a well-known local fact that unless you come from a wealthy background, you must become an employee of the resort in order to regularly enjoy the skiing and riding trails. I have been employed at Mount Sunapee on a few occasions throughout my lifetime. Once hired, you are required to sit through information sessions where the owners, the leaseholders, and the general manager stand before you and they say how much they care about you in the community. I'd like to believe it, but once the paycheck comes, this facade fades away. In my teens, I earned in the $7 and $8 an hour range. 10 years later, after graduating college, I earned in the $8 and $9 an hour range. We all know that $8 is not a livable wage. In the past 10 years, the average cost of living has increased by about 26%. 26% is a lot, and meanwhile, the wages at Mount Sunapee have remained essentially the same. Some employees must work so much to make ends meet that they don't even get to enjoy the pass that they worked so hard to have. In my opinion, if the resort truly cared, they would not only boast the need to compete for business, as they do, but they would feel the need to offer competitive wages. Wages that wouldn't require the locals to live from paycheck to paycheck, as many in the area unfortunately do. Wages that college graduates are not going to stick around for. Wages that leave the locals room to invest back into the community that the resort also claims to care so much for. In my short years, I have seen numerous businesses fail right at the base of the mountain. As previously major impact of these weekend crowds can be seen on the one major road leading to Mount Sunapee. The small town is not able to handle all of the traffic on this road. There is one thing, though, we still locals have at our park. That is the hiking. That is what my grandfather and great-grandfather would be doing on that land if they were still with us today. Being up on those mountains, on those trails, is absolute heaven. Besides the gorgeous scenery, hiking promotes physical activity, appreciation of nature, builds strong character, and literally shows you the payoff of your hard work. These are the values I want to pass on to my children like my parents have done for me. This is what I love about New Hampshire and what has kept me here. In my opinion, the proposed mountain coaster does not foster these important values. With the rates of obesity and chronic disease climbing as they are, especially in children, we need to set a good example and encourage physical activity more than the sedentary sit-and-pay type of thrill, as I like to say. Mount Sunapee has been evolving into a play place for the wealthy out-of-staters. Let's not turn it into a run-down amusement park as well. I would like to say that I do love Mount Sunapee. I grew up on it and learned how to ski and ride there. Going too big too quickly is not always wise, especially with the risks involved. The risks outweigh the benefits, in my opinion, and that is the opinion shared by many of my generation as well. 4 new trails and a mountain coaster are not worth a cost this great to the forest and the community. 4 new trails are not going to boost the local economy. It's literally 4 trails. The 4 new trails proposed are going to destroy incredible lands with hundreds of years of progress behind them. And they will destroy very nice hiking trails. The new trails will also show me, as actions speak louder than words, where the priorities of the state and the policymakers lie. I feel that part of the reason there will always be pushes from big corporations to capitalize on anything they can, regardless of what must be destroyed to do so. It is the job of the elected officials to use the laws to protect the land and the people standing here today defending their land and making it known that this is not what we want for our hometown. I know that Governor Hassan has the intelligence, the values, and the power to do what is right for the state. To do what Governor Lynch did when he saw the importance of preserving the land and vetoed the last attempt at resort expansion. Show us where the priorities of the state lie. Give a young lady the faith she wants to have in her government. The faith that her elected officials will not always falter to the promise of big profits, but will honor the preservation of the state parks for the purpose that it was originally intended for. The reason my great-grandfather had 24 acres from him, for the enjoyment of the people and the state and the preservation of the land. Show me through your actions that you are willing to stand up for the people, stand up for the values, and stand up for the beautiful land I love the most. This is what is important about New Hampshire, and this is what we need to preserve and pass on. And that's it.
I can see.
At the little advisory meeting, he was saying, oh, we got 350.
Swallow a little pride. What's your story?
What's your last name?
My name This way.
Keep coming this way.
This way.
All the way down this way.
We've got a packet of information, and here is one pile. I'm going to put them right there. Is everybody in? Yep. Okay. Oh, this is a commission. Okay. Don't forget the lady behind the curtain. Okay. Governor Hassan. My name's Kathy Corcoran from New Hampshire Sierra Club, and we have Sierra Club members and Friends of Mount Sunapee members here to deliver 1,945 comments for the draft plan proposal over at DRED. We wanted to share copies with the governor, and we'll also be sending the copies to the commissioner.
Okay.
So here you go. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And everybody, maybe we can say Mount Sunapee again. Because they do work here. So. 1, 2, 3.
Say Mount Sunapee. Please. Thank you. Can I leave